Every Pokemon content creator has dropped a video about how Switch 2 affects Scarlet and Violet. Understandably, they hit the most wanted list that all of us were curious to see. This stupid windmill, Casseroya Lake, lag tree thicket, then they're off to shiny hunt. Super fair. But as someone who has played far too much of this game, I had some remaining questions I was surprised I didn't see more people answer. I probably just missed the videos showing it, but whatever. If you're here and have those questions, you get to see answers. Maybe you're having bad luck with Switch 2 stock, or you just don't want one yet, but want to know what the entire experience is like once you do pick one up. Either way, I got you. For some reason, I bought a Switch 2, so now you get useless information. I figured I'd start with two words I haven't heard any Gen 9 player utter since the week DLC 1 released. Ogre Austin. I forgot how brutal this is solo. Can you even beat that hardest difficulty by yourself? I'm probably just terrible. Anyway, thankfully, as you expected already, it performs much better. Kitakami especially was a bit of a rough point. The resolution on Switch 1 was not kind to the foresty areas here, but all is well. This should hopefully help anyone trying to get that shiny Munchlax in the year of our Lord 2025. Next up, PC boxes. I think at some point there was an update that helped these out some, but it still wasn't great if you were flipping through a bunch of Pokemon. There's still a moment as the models load in, and it seems you can confuse it a little bit by going forward and then back suddenly, but it's pleasant to try to find Pokemon now all in all. It's a similar story for the Pokédex, which I was especially surprised to see skipped over in the videos I watched. Everything scrolls like disconcertingly well now, and models seem to have a similar load time here as well. Not instant, but certainly not unacceptable. I loved filling in the Pokédex on Scarlet, but I never really loved the experience of using it all in all, so I think I'd still prefer a more traditional presentation in future games, but this update has fashioned this to a reasonable place now. Speaking of fashion, I'd groan anytime I'd accidentally hit the left D-pad button on Switch 1. I knew I'd just caused myself unnecessary pain as the game slowly pulled up the clothing menus. I set a look for my character and barely ever changed it because it just felt bad to go through. Granted, I'm a very sensitive gamer and have been spoiled by high frame rates in other games, so a fair bit of that is a me issue. Still, even I got to a happy place with this as it stands now. Clothing previews are immediate, both in this menu and in the shops. Haircuts are quick, and everything in general is much snappier thanks to the improved load times of the patch on this system. Great news for those who like to customize. And also, I did find a reliable place, speaking of customization, to have the Switch 1 experience on Switch 2. Remember the photo customization options from the second DLC? If you do, it's probably a bad memory. You try a filter, watch the game cough and choke on it for like 10 seconds, then get a result that usually wasn't worth the time. The game still trips on itself when you apply a filter, but it's still a relatively faster process. The unintuitive "I do not want this" text boxes after the filter are still here though, rest assured, so you'll probably mess around with that. Not wanting to. Now, as for something people have absolutely touched on, but just to illustrate the point in general here, some shiny hunts in the base game were ridiculous to even attempt. Water shiny hunts were something I'd written off entirely. I did Veluza and that was enough. In the ocean, that's still kind of the case. It's just a bit too much strain for some of these to be worth doing, you know? It's not even like the game at this fault, it's just looking for some of these shinies at that water. Good luck hunting for a shiny Arrokuda out here, right? Still, the increased resolution and frame rate has made some land hunts feel less daunting. Still ridiculous, mind you, but more approachable relatively, I guess you'd say. Shiny Tandemaus still feels like self-inflicted torture, for example, but your willpower has to fight less against the Switch 1, seeming to strongly suggest you do something else with your time. Trying to spot their stupid shorts remains like a crazy task, but it's at least much clearer on TV and handheld now. The increased frame rate means you'll question yourself less on if you just skipped a frame that would have made the color difference more obvious. And most importantly of all, the increased resolution makes the zoom accessibility feature pretty nice to use. Everything comes through fairly crisp and scans around cleanly. Now, this isn't both Switch's system accessibility features if you've never known. It helps out with things like this a ton. Now, it isn't a huge improvement here on Switch 2, but it is a nice little bonus and is better than it was on Switch 1. Also, remember how sometimes when you'd run into a Pokemon, their full model wouldn't load in, just a lower resolution version of it? That appears to be gone entirely here. More Pokemon run around and are either doing so in a higher quality, or the game is just masking the loads better instead of zooming in on the low-res versions. Okay, now that I've gotten that footage and typed this out, I see why no one was really bothering to show this stuff. Actually, it's kind of boring and quick, but that's why I'm here. As a thank you for clicking into the 1000th video about these games on Switch 2, I wanted to touch on a few other mainline Pokemon games on the system. We'll run through these quick. None of these got specific Switch 2 updates like Scarlet and Violet did, but they do get some advantage out of being played on the new hardware. First up is everyone's favorite, Let's Go Eevee. Most of what I've seen about this has commented on its faster load times, which is great, that is a thing. But I think a lot of people forgot about how the game would drop frame rates in certain places when playing in handheld mode. Viridian Forest is a known bugbear. Here on Switch 2, it's quite nice now. I'm not sure if my camera is showing that particularly well, but take my word on it. You can trust me. I'm a guy on YouTube speaking with authority. I have to be right. Next up is Legends Arceus, which I'm most hopeful for a patch on just because I love this game so much. It does benefit from better image quality and loading times here, as well as a consistent 30 frames per second experience. This one already played pretty okay on the first Switch, so this just joins Let's Go and just being a nice, convenient way to play the game. And I'll be honest, I just don't remember if BDSP had any like problem spots that are improved now. Like I played my few dozen hours of it and I just don't recall much of anything about it. So if you like that game, I'm sorry that it's catching even more strays here. Everywhere it goes, BDSP catches strays. I do know that it's like 13 seconds faster to soft reset now. So if you're doing that minute-long shiny Arceus reset hunt, you might actually literally save hours of your life just from this alone. I wish that was an exaggeration. I guess it's also worth mentioning that I own my Pokemon games physically. Supposedly the digital versions of all games see even better load times on Switch 2, but I don't have digital versions to compare. So, some guy on YouTube said that with authority, so he has to be right. Sword and Shield are what I was most curious about, yet haven't seen much on. For one, look how smooth this transition into battle is. It's actually only marginally slightly faster, but boy, it feels way different, doesn't it? Maybe I just haven't played Sword in a while. Anyway, I mostly wanted to stress this out with the worst of the worst. Bad weather with the online connection enabled. If you've played Gen 8, you know that as the recipe for terrible performance drops in the wild area. No surprise here, by and large, it's nice and consistent now. I wouldn't be surprised if you could find some ways to dip some frames here and there, but the wild area feels nice to explore like this. You don't have to brace yourself for hitting fog or weather or anything like that. Plus, it's just faster to fly around thanks to the load times. I'd love if Game Freak took some time to come back and drop a patch on Sword and Shield as well, but honestly, I'm pretty content with this. There you have it. A video where some adult goes through mainline Pokemon games and goes, "Oh yeah, that loads faster," over and over. If you're mainly a Poke fanatic, I hope the message here is clear, the subtext. It isn't worth buying a Switch 2 for this, and probably still won't be even for Legends ZA. It's really, really, really nice. Definitely the ideal way to officially play all of these games as well as other Switch 1 releases, but if nothing else about the system has you sold yet, you're more than fine to wait and see if Gen 10 is Switch 2 exclusive or not, or maybe ZA will get some Switch 2 exclusive DLC or something weird, right? At some point, Coliseum and XD will come to the GameCube app, and that'll be neat. Hopefully with the Pokemon Presents next month, Game Freak drops just a bunch of patches and immediately outdates this video, but I anticipate that by and large, this is how things will settle and be going forward. Dedicated improvement for Gen 9, and everything else gets a slight but welcomed and unintentioned bump. Oh, I did forget Pokemon Home. Yeah, it's it's basically the same. Maybe a little faster when swapping boxes, but everything I said a few months back in that other video still stands. Like, I don't know how much of this would be like system performance versus server internet performance. You know what I mean? If you haven't seen that video but want to listen to an adult complain, feel free to tune into that next. But otherwise, thanks for watching yet another video about these games on Switch 2. But bye. Also, one little bonus. There's a certain friend of ours that no one has checked in on yet. Hey there! How's it going? Oh no. Alright. Clip this, take this out of context. Switch 2 didn't fix Scarlet and Violet. Game is still big poopy butthole?